This program has been brought to you thanks to the generous contributions of our patrons on Patreon. Your patronage is greatly appreciated. And for more content like this, be sure to check out the Modern Alchemist channel on Patreon.
Shall we begin? Let's begin now. Let's begin now.
Greetings, and welcome to the Modern Alchemist channel. I'm Aubrey Force, the Modern Alchemist, and this is Alchemy Lab. From the land of the Ganges, many advanced occultists wandered to the land of Egypt and sat at the feet of the master. From him they obtained the master key, which explained and reconciled their divergent views, and thus the secret doctrine was firmly established. From the other lands also came the learned ones, all of whom regarded Hermes as the master of masters. And his influence was so great that in spite of the many wanderings from the path on the part of the centuries of teachers in these different lands, there may still be found a certain basic resemblance and correspondence which underlies the many and often quite divergent theories entertained and taught by occultists of these different lands today. The student of the comparative religions will be able to perceive the influence of the hermetic teachings in every religion worthy of the name, now known to man, whether it be a dead religion or one in full vigor in our own times. There is always certain correspondence in spite of the contradictory features, and the hermetic teachings act as the great reconciler. So here we have another instance where we're talking about people sitting at the feet of a person that I said didn't exist. So this is how you reconcile this, by understanding that yes, while at one moment we're talking about stuff outside of ourselves, at the same instant we recognize that we are mortal incarnations of all of this electromagnetism, mortal incarnations of all of that consciousness. And so we carry with us and within ourselves that divinity, if you wish to call it that. This idea was played with a bit more in the 70s when bicameralism was discussed. So that the bicameral mind is the idea that the thoughts which you are thinking may not actually be your thoughts. You might be receiving the thoughts of divinity. And of course, lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of religions today, they still trade on that. That's their stock and trade. God told me to do this. God inspired this, or I felt inspired by an angel or a special super being. So there's no real way. And of course, how do you know which thoughts are yours and which thoughts might not be yours? That's where all this it kind of blows up a little bit. So just realize that you're thinking your thoughts, and those are yours, and your inner voice is your voice. But recognize also that you are not an island unto yourself, that a lot of people have realized they're not islands either. And so we look around and we say, what is influencing this island? Well, we got weather, and we got clouds and rain and water and plants, and all of it is all part of the same thing. It's all part of the same divinity, the same all that we will talk about later, the all, with all capital letters. One of the things that I particularly enjoy, since my background is in comparative religion, is the fact that the statement, the student of comparative religions will be able to perceive the influence of hermetic teachings in every religion worthy of the name. That is absolutely true. In fact, this is why I say that alchemy is the core narrative of all religions and philosophies enjoyed today. It is the core narrative, meaning that it supplies you with the language and the characters necessary to express our story and of who and what we are and what lay in store for us. So this work identifies that as well and recognizes it too as a truth, that these teachings are everywhere. The life work of Hermes seems to have been in the direction of planting the great seed truth, which has grown and blossomed in so many strange forms, rather than to establish a school of philosophy which would dominate the world's thought. But nevertheless, the original truths taught by him have been kept intact in their original purity by a few men each age, who, refusing great numbers of half-developed students and followers, followed the hermetic custom and reserved their truth for the few who were ready to comprehend and master it. From lip to ear, the truth has been handed down among the few. There have always been a few initiates in each generation, in the various lands of the earth, who kept alive the sacred flame of the hermetic teachings, and such have always been willing to use their lamps to relight the lesser lamps of the outside world, when the light of truth grew dim and clouded by reason of neglect, and when the wicks became clogged with foreign matter. There were always a few to tend fully the altar of truth, upon which was kept alight the perpetual lamp of wisdom. These men devoted their lives to the labor of love, which the poet so well stated in his lines, "Oh, let not the flame die out, cherished age after age in its dark cavern, in its holy temples cherished, fed by pure ministers of love, let not the flame die out." Let's talk about the idea of how this stuff has been taught throughout the ages. In a way that is somewhat condemning. It talks about the fact that there are great numbers of half-developed students and followers. It's really, really tempting as an instructor, especially when you know how much good can come from teaching this material. It's really tempting to just take every student that comes with some kind of excitement. And of course, recently you've heard my own lamentations, of having done that, having fallen to the temptation and then realizing later that person was nowhere near ready. And then realizing after the fact, even later still, they may never be ready, and learning to accept that. The readiness is not on the part of the instructor. The readiness is definitely on the part of the student. It is the equivalent of planting a seed in the ground. The seed in and of itself is always going to be the seed. It'll always have the potential of a seed. And that potential is dependent upon where that seed is placed. So if it's just cast on shallow ground, it'll take and then burn up in the heat of the day, right? If it falls among the rocks, then it might not grow at all. If it falls in some decent soil, then it's entirely dependent upon who's tending that soil, because the ground may be wonderful, but if the seed then is not tended, if that growth the seed produces is not tended, then it fades, it languishes and dies.